We're here a little early, but we are indeed here. Welcome, everyone. I believe everyone is casting this best of 3, but it is the most interesting one. It's also the furthest along in the bracket, so probably watch this unfold and then wait for the other bracket to catch up. With a couple of good names in today's brackets, a couple of NA representatives as well as European representatives, and of course Korea. This is the North American Open Cup. So thanks for stopping by. Let's get into this TvZ. Bottom left, Byun. Top right, Solar. We do have Byun going for his very typical 2 racks full of forward position. He does this all the time. Doesn't seem to really changing. The other Terrans are like a scaling, I suppose, so the amount of times they do this, but Byun is like 100%. If he doesn't do this, sometimes it's command center first, but he does like this build, and he does like this follow-up. The additional barracks coming down, the map control that it gives, the potential for a KO as well, even against players who are well-practiced against the opener. Sometimes do mess up against the mass amounts of Marines. And this actually, is before the command center, so this actually isn't even... Well, it can go into that, obviously, but first and foremost, it's going to be about the amount of Reapers that are going to be thrown out here. It's going to be a lot of them. Not just the typical 3, not 4 or 5, but more than that even, with this third racks coming in. Solar's going to see the lack of command center and figure this one out. Okay, good. Yeah, there is a pervert pillar here, so Solar, even though sometimes he is really reserved with his overlords, really wouldn't have an excuse not to do this. Especially against someone who can obviously go for this third racks very quickly. Byun still pretty good with his Reaper control, even if it's a far cry from his GSL victory days, where the Reaper was a little bit better. The third hatch is actually down, which is already a good thing for Solar. If he loses this first queen, however, that could get pretty dicey pretty quickly. The hatchery being down is great and all, but you can see that it does take the minerals that you would be using to potentially get another 2 queens, or queen and a half, I guess. Ooh, so damn close, and this Reaper was also so damn close to killing this queen. Ay, ay, ay. Speed approaching its last 30 seconds here to finish. Byun knows that he's on that timer. To an extent, the amount of Reapers he's going to get can tackle Speedlings if they get into the right position, but generally Speedlings is the end of this push. But yeah, the third hatch, it still is good to have, obviously down, as opposed to being stuck trying to loop the drone over there and getting killed and drone and kill and drone and kill. But yeah, the extra queens would have also kind of cemented, I guess, the potential to snowball. But if you can stop the snowball just with the queens that you have and the lings finally getting their speed, then more power to you. And this hatchery is also going to live. The lings are looking for the surround. Byun is on top of things, however. Solar really wants to get the full surround here if he can actually grab it, but Byun's micro usually pretty good here. Unfortunately, doesn't have a lot of grenades by the looks of it, or doesn't think that it's going to be worth to use it. There we go. Unfortunately, no really hop-up spot to really abuse. Nonetheless, the typical DPS from the Reaper, plus a couple of grenades, end up doing the trick. But, I mean, Solar, he's going to save the hatchery. I think that's basically a given at this point. The question then becomes how many lings, and thus not drones, does he have to use to make to actually defend the hatchery? And the answer is quite a bit. He's already lost 30. He's going to lose even more. Obviously, just making them, even if they do manage to get most of the Reapers, they do before they get off that hop-up, is, you know, great and all, but they are drones he doesn't make. So Byun's now on 2 bases, Orbital finishing up at his natural, and he's on an even worker count. Obviously, the Zerg player is going to burst faster with drones now that they know they're not going to be attacked for the next minute. But that is the question that this kind of comes down to. This could go way worse for the Zerg, though. I mean, this could be very easy to call. If that third hatch never went down, the drone kept getting denied and couldn't go over on this left side either. And then, you know, Solar gets supply blocked, then he lost that one queen that leads to the other queen, and then, you know, he's not got larva, he's not got injects, he's not got creep spread, he's not got a good economy, and then it's easy to call. But this one's, you know, a little more ambiguous because of how much the Terran forces the Zerg to actually respond. This could have been awkward if it was more of a run by, just because it would have delayed the push, but Byun, is he actually going to push with this? He does have Stim. Starport is done, about to get onto Medivac, so I think he's not really going to look for the trigger pool so much as he is going to try and actually just take the map control a little bit, assuming that there's not any, well, not even that there's not any Banelings, but obviously the Banelings wouldn't really have speed. I mean, I guess they could, but it'd be a pretty fast build for that. And they'd be off creep as well, so yeah, this, generally you're not going to get surrounded here, and if you are, because there's actually like 60 Lings on the map, I mean, that's again a big hit to the Zerg's economy, which is probably not going to be worth it. There's the Medivacs now. Solar does not still have a Baneling nest. I know, of course, tackling the army offensively off of creep is one thing, but, you know, you do get to a point in which you do need a Baneling nest in this matchup. If nothing else to start Baneling speed, but of course Alaire hasn't started either. Wow, Solar's still on hatch tech. Byun is going for more of a 2-base dedicated push. He is on 2-base 3-1-1. And I'm worried that this, especially with that +1 already being done, combat shields, however, never started, actually. Byun making a big mistake, but is it going to matter? Just the sheer DPS of the Marines might be good enough. Now there's going to be a little more surround. Medivac does go down, but the Lings have all been dispelled. The Queen's starting to get popped as well. And that is game. That is indeed game. Okay, then. Yeah, so didn't need, you know, combat shields, I guess. That's fine. But Solar absolutely needed a couple of Banelings just to stall out that jump on his Queens and all of his Lings needing to sacrifice themselves. You know, the Banelings might never get connections, but they do force the Terran to kind of reapproach how they handle things. So, my story for today is that Apollo kind of scratched me a little bit. We were playing, and he kind of got a, you know, claw into my, like, nail bed, kind of. And I'm now worried that it's infected. But I don't know where to get treatment for that. So, that's going to be concerning. I'm going to be like a 17th century peasant and die from a small infected wound. In the top left, you do have Shopify Rebellion's Byun. Bottom right, it is Onside's Solar. Seriously, though. I mean, I know, like, I was Googling, like, English-speaking doctors in Korea, but then I don't know, like, what doctor to go to. They didn't really have, like, a general practitioner. So, yeah, it's gonna be fun. Yep. Gonna die. So, Byun with the nasty 3-racks into 2-base push is making his own mistake that was, I guess, just less grievous than Solar's mistake, which was not to get a Baneling nest. Possibly anticipating that there was a 3rd CC before that. A little less bite to the push at that point. Possibly seeing that there was no combat shields and thinking, okay, no, I can handle this without it. But, you know, the Queen count wasn't very high for Solar. Not that Queens are your natural on a defense of, like, killing Marines, but they do tend to tank a lot, right? Especially if they've been able to build up a couple transfuses. So they do make a difference, especially when there's no combat shields. Then their DPS is moderate, I suppose. Primarily focused on the Medivac, sure, but can buy a little bit more time, hopefully get more Lings and a better surround if that is possible. That surround at the end was fine. It's just that +1 missile or range, there we go, kicks in, and then it's pretty difficult to tackle them. But Banelings, again, would have been helpful. I don't know if they would have won the game, but they would have been helpful. Just to, like 4 to 6 would have been enough to have Byun back away from jumping on top of the Queens. Would have been another second to buy before the Lings had to sacrifice themselves. I mean, I think Solar's in an uncomfortable position thanks to the way that this build works out. The jab, jab, punch. But it's going to happen again, and it looks like it will happen again because Byun's 3-raxing. Solar's going to have a better, more mid-game, I suppose. The post-3 Reaper, 3-racks Reaper attack. Because he didn't look like he was in a super comfortable position. And once again, we got the first struggle, being getting that 3rd hatch down. Now, the drone was not intercepted, but the hatchery is very low because it's brand new. And, well, the queen's off the creep. It's a very dangerous place to be. Speed's nowhere close to finishing. 4th and 5th Reaper are almost here. That's a lot of firepower for someone who doesn't have speedlings quite yet. 2 queens, I guess, are still kind of healthy, but that's gonna, you know, quickly deplete. 1 Reaper very, very low, not being focus fired. Ling still without speed. We got, what, 15 seconds to go? Exactly. 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Oh, God, the queens are down. Oh, God. Oh, boy. 8 is going to be speed finally, but this is still a bit of a conundrum. The Reapers can jump up to the high ground. They're getting their grenades in. Oh, about half of them do get surrounded, though. Solar finding catching a break, and now the rest of them do get surrounded. Wasn't a jump up? That's the only jump up? Well, that's something then, but Byun is able to retreat back to his wall without a Baneling nest. You're not going to be able to Baneling bust, which would have been actually a very good option if Solar was pre-planning that. But what Solar can do is grab these tech labs and reactors, right? So that's a freebie. It's going to force repair as well on the supply depot. In fact, the command center is going to have to be delayed for that, and Byun is in a little bit of trouble. Solar saving his hatchery, losing 2 queens, yes, but then ultimately causing even more problems for his Terran opponent. The queen losses, if they snowball, are devastating. If that leads to all the lings dying and then there's not enough reinforcements, then that's devastating. But the queen dying in this case, as we have Byun still forced to repair his wall, means that there's maybe a little less on the creep spread, the third option. There we go. A little less on the creep spread. But the injects weren't really necessary this early on in the game anyway, especially because the third hatch is there naturally giving that larva. And then you still have 2 creep tumors, which, you know, they're not going to be harassed anytime soon, so they can be pretty active. And third one is going to be necessary for sure, just to make sure you have all the pathways covered, or as many as possible. But we're getting there, basically. That gap of time where you don't have queens, not really as impactful when you get to shove back the Terran as much as Solar was able to do. 8 Reapers managing to escape somehow. Maybe this was a hop up, and then they're just bouncing back and forth. Could have been absolutely devastating. I think we have 6 Reapers and 8. It was going to be 7. This guy was reinforcing, and then he was like, nope, 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 nope. Ran back home. We have a slight change up on the follow-up, though. Sim is done. Maybe this time combat shields will start, but first and foremost, we have ourselves a Hellbat attack on 2 bases. So this is going to be a quicker attack, but it is going to consist of less medevacs and less Marines, but not because of the Hellion edition. It's because the reactors died. Byun did have that 3rd barracks out of Tech Lab, though, which actually saved his stim timing. But the Hellbat attack, If Solar's once again skipping on the Baneling nest, which he absolutely is, then these Hellbats are going to be brutal. 8 queens is a good number if they're all combined together. There might be a couple of transfuses, too, despite the queens being a little bit later into this game. But Banelings would have been the real kicker here. Banelings would have made this easy peasy. Now, the Hellions have been revealed. This is the first time Solar has seen the Hellions, right? So, seeing that, knowing that Hellbats could be on the way, now throws down the the Baneling nest. But it's all about the queens now, and they are bunched up. A couple of transfuses in their pocket as well, only 1 medevac healing. The Lings not doing a whole heck of a lot, and now the queens are jumped upon. The Marines really doing the job. The medevac, ooh, microed away at the last second. There it goes. Finally gets popped. And without the medevac healing, this might actually be over. 2 more Hellbats could join in on the fray. If they even need to turn into Hellbats, okay, they will. More queens going down. At the end of the day, the number of queens that have died make this a somewhat successful Hellbat attack. The amount of Lings that had to be produced to actually clean this up as well, quite considerable. That's 70 Lings dead, plus 28 more that Solar has made. But the drone count was already pretty good. The 4th base was building that entire time. And still about a 21 worker lead, actually. With 1-1 upgrades on the way. Going to be faster than his opponents. I think Solar's fine. That was a huge delay on the 3rd CC. So even though every single queen dying is usually a big consideration, the lack of creep spread, injects, and further transfuses for follow-up pushes, I would say that that was a bigger commitment. And killing queens was not enough. We'll see if I'm wrong, though, especially if Byun starts going into his drop phase, which is hard to do when you're only producing 1 medevac at a time, so. Finally has the reactor on, but Yeah, if he had 3 medevacs and they were just flying around, take advantage of the lack of queens who also provide your initial anti-air, then there could have been something. But by the time that Byun has more medevacs, he's also going to be up against someone who has hydras, and those already replace all the queens too. Byun always looking for the aggression, still hoping to find his opponents caught sleeping. Caught building drones more than army, but Solar was not really forced to build a lot of drones, and his economy was pretty good even at the start of the... Oh my god, well that's devastating. Well, that's probably game over then. Yeah, GG. I was saying that, you know, he built like 10 more drones and then went back into building army, easy peasy. There wasn't even really a significant larva drop that I could see. Or he was a bit larva blocked. Yeah, you can't build a add-on if something's physically blocking it. So now the series is tied up. In the top right it is Byun, in the bottom left it is Solar. Solar able to really punish Byun's 3 racks opener by collecting all of the Reaper's deaths, except the one that reinforced. The one Reaper hardly makes an army. It actually looked like it might go a little screwy for Solar, even screwier than the first game when he lost that queen. When his 3rd hatch was already under fire so early on in its development. But the fact that those Lings ended up getting the full surrounds on both sets of Reapers really did help out. And then the Hellbat push, you know, to be fair, got kind of close to doing the snowball thing. Because all the queens die and then you're only with Lings against the Hellbat push. That sounds bad. But the Marines had expended most of their life at that point, and then the medevac had died. 1 medevac healing probably wouldn't have been enough anyway with the reinforcing Lings. But when all the queens die, there is always that kind of concern. Are the Lings going to be enough? They were. And then he was on a pretty good economy for that situation. 63 drones, 4 bases after defeating a 2-base Hellbat push. It's pretty good. So Byun, is he going to do it again? Looks like he is going to do it again. I mean, totally acceptable to do the same build twice in a row and it worked out the first time. But then as soon as it loses, it's always, you would expect at least, a little bit of hesitation to do it the 3rd time around. But Byun does like his feeling of control in this game, which, of course, TvZ kind of does more often boil down to the Terran being the aggressor and being the controller and the Zerg being the defender. Yeah, okay, fine. But, you know, we have plenty of TvZs where it's, well, the first 5 minutes, it's anyone's game. Like, you both are macroing super hard. 3 CC versus 4 Hatchy. Oh, Byun really does like to take control from minute 2, apparently. First Reaper pops out at that point. And if his Reaper control just a little bit better, if he was able to save those Reapers, get up onto the high ground, not get surrounded, whatever, then it is still very intimidating for the Zerg player, because there's always that concern that even though you held, did you hold good enough? Did you waste too many units trying to do the hold in the first place? Makes it a little more ambiguous. Reaper number 1, tasked with just scouting. Solar not a Zerg player who typically goes for early aggression, but has definitely thrown out a couple of response Baneling attacks. So I do think that's something that Byun has to worry about. But as far as, you know, like a Roach Warren, I mean, that's actually been proven not to even really work against this. Nope, Solar's best bet is to go for a lot of Speedlings, and this time around he did go for faster speed, so finishing at 3:03, as opposed to like 3:40. And that's also what Byun was scouting for. You see the pool gas hatchery timing. When he saw it, he knew that he was on even more limited time, and decides to just leave. Now, this looks like a direct counter. Solar has speed so fast, the Reapers can't do anything. But Solar's economy takes a hit for this opener, plus the 18 Lings that he made when just scouted and died. So keep that in mind. Again, they can pump out a decent amount of drones very quickly when they know they're not being attacked, but still stuck on 2 bases, 3rd hatch not finishing, only so much larva being popped. The droning is not going to be super impressive, and Byun's own single command center economy is still matching Solar's, plus the mule, right? And his natural command center will eventually finish. Just moving on into the 3 racks. Starport factory may or may not be used. For those Hellions again, we'll see. The Reapers, I'm a little surprised they are on the map, but then Byun has a lot more confidence in his control with Reapers than I do with mine. And, you know, 8 Reapers would, I would say most of the time, we were talking about pros, would beat the number of Lings Solar has, as long as the Terran player is aware of their surroundings and has the exits that they need to, you know, jump up or jump down, which is currently kind of missing. So right now, the grenades are saving the day, and oh man, they're so good actually. Byun, the zigging and zagging that went on right there, I thought he was in trouble because he didn't have a hop up, but hot damn, all right. So Solar makes additional Lings, realizing that the Reapers could have been a problem, and then those Lings don't even do the job of surrounding the Reapers, which again means that there's not as many drones, and Byun's 2 bases is now set up with dropping mules, and Byun, able to keep the aggression on with just pure Reaper. This would usually be where you say, like, Hellions would do the job about 5 minutes in. Hellions the only thing that could be on the map, protected against those Ling surrounds, but these Reapers are doing it. They're doing it. They're doing it. And they're going to have +1 if they survive, which they are finally going to get surrounded. Finally. Come on. Just give it to Solar. Come on. No. I do love that. I love Solar's question mark. That's some abuse right there. So back to my point, the 7 Reapers here are gonna have +1, and they shoot twice. +1's actually very effective on Reapers. Oh boy, Medevac is going to be out soon. Medevacs, plural. He did use the factory just to build a reactor, and that is intimidating, because again, no Baneling Nest. Solar is, I mean, at this point, they're obviously intentionally delaying the Baneling Nest, trying to make do with the army that he can get without it, but yeah, it's just he's lost too much of the Reapers.